Om Namah Shivaya, Hari Om. Good to be with you. Brian and I are back. And we're stepping through Steps Towards Inner Peace from Peace Pilgrim. We started night before last. And that was episode 1. This is number 2. If you didn't see that one, and this seems interesting to you, then right above or right below will be the prior session, which is an introduction to Peace Pilgrim. We talked about the pilgrimage and really her from an inner perspective, and quite astounding. We'll say that. There's a documentary linked here, and the Steps Towards Inner Peace booklet, which is what we're stepping through, is linked here as well. So absolutely suggest that you imbibe in these. The documentary Brian and I are going to be watching together this evening, so I get to see it again, Jai, and share it, which is always cool. I feel like it's the best documentary ever. Probably because the subject of the documentary, but it is so well done. Maya Angelou. Some will know of Maya Angelou as one of those who are interviewed, and she's amazing. Okay. So segue here, and that is background is a little bit about peace and her as Peace Pilgrim and her way, which is absolutely mind-boggling. This is why we call her a great saint. And she had united with the great peace. She had become one with peace and absolutely an instrument of peace. And then we introduced Steps Towards Inner Peace. We gave some of the background. And so we'll pick up here. There are 12 steps. And the 12 steps are divided into 3 categories. And they are preparations, purifications, and then relinquishments. 4 of each. And she made the point of sharing, and we'll find this, that these steps don't have to be taken in a particular order, and also that each of us have taken some of them already. And many of them are known. It's a question of the practice. Part of the beauty of this, though, is Peace's simplicity, the way that she speaks and shares and embodies these great teachings. She is not a dear soul that simply teaches us the way we're to be. This is all with a living example, which is very, very, very helpful to us. It helps us to have confidence in the efficacy and in what she's sharing, that it works. And so we'll pick it up. We'll start with the preparations for inner peace, and Brian will read, and then we'll have some discussion. If you have questions, and I'm putting Brian on the spot and asking him to raise questions as we go through this as well, and we'll take a little bit of time with it. If you have questions, we may not pick them up live, but I promise we'll pick them up, and either I'll reply back or offer a link on something, or somehow we'll do our best to share. So let's begin with the first of the 4 preparations. Brian, if you would, please.
Number 1, assume right attitudes toward life. Stop being an escapist or a surface liver, as these attitudes can only cause inharmony in your life. Face life squarely and get down below the froth on its surface to discover its verities and realities. Solve the problems that life sets before you, and you will find that solving them contributes to your inner growth. Helping to solve collective problems contributes also to your growth, and these problems should never be avoided.
Thank you. So there are 2 factors here that we should talk about a little bit more, and then we'll see what else comes up. First is she uses the term in harmony, and the second is this relationship with problems and how this relates to our growth and our attainment of peace. So first, harmony and inharmony. Inharmony may sound a little bit odd, discord or disharmony, however we relate to it, but we all relate to it. So first, we were playing the harmonium earlier today, and music is a really simple way to relate to it. Each of us have had this experience where we listen to music, and if a note is played that is inharmonious or disharmonious, discordant, you'll hear it, right? And it's not just hearing it, you'll feel it. Is that so? Kind of like you feel it in the gut. Yeah, you feel it somehow in the body. So, and it's jarring, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And the more discordant, and the more it's followed by more discordant notes, the more jarring it gets, doesn't it? Oh. And so that's the first way of relating to it, is with music. But now you'll see that also we're all placed in situations where someone will do a thing or say a thing where we'll experience the same. Is it correct? And this is every single one of us have this experience. And then, of course, if we take one more step with it, we'll see that we will do a thing that will cause this feeling of discord, or say a thing, or even think a thing that will cause this sense of discord to arise. And in the same way, if we look on the other side, we'll see that there is a sense of harmony in a positive way that we also have experience with, yes? Where we feel, and we don't think of it in this way in the moment, but if you reflect back, very much harmonious, you feel in alignment, yes? Mm-hmm. And so both of these. Now, what peace is touching on in the Eastern traditions, we call this the guru. In psychology, we call it the intuitive nature or the conscience. This is, when we say let our conscience be our guide, what she's hitting on is something very, very important for us, very simple and so darn practical. And that is this feeling, this sensation, is the way for us to be able to tell whether our life, our mode of life, is leading towards peace or leading towards the opposite of peace. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Whether we're going the right direction, the way of peace, or whether we're going the wrong direction. Now, of course, because we're living with this ego sense, we have to live with this idea that they're the problem. I get it. I used to live in that world. And frankly, we find that there's precious little that we can do. We can try to change others, but there's precious little that we can actually do to change the circumstances that we're placed in, or to change others. However, there's everything that we can do within our inner world to live and relate in ways that become more and more harmonious. And so this is really the way that we can relate to it, is what can we do? We can work with our own thoughts, our own speech, and our own intentions. We can work with our motivations like this. And this is really what spiritual path is about, and this seeking of inner peace. So that's first, is being aware of this sense of harmony and discord as guide. Mm-hmm. And then the second is that I get it, that we're all, again, feeling like I want an easy life. I want what I want. And it sounds like, I remember the first time that I was with a dear soul who was talking about loving what he didn't like, and that just freaked me out. Because at that point, I was living in the school where I like what I like. I love what I like. I want what I like, and I don't want what I don't want. And yet, what we discover is that I need what I don't like in my life, because I need to figure out how to relate to it in a way that allows me to grow and to come towards the place of peace. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
So how do you discern that? Like, the not liking a thing feels like disharmony to a certain part of us, but we are not to repulse from it immediately.
Well, there's a school here, and peace is definitely in the school, that says what happens to us in our life is an opportunity, not a problem.
Uh-huh. Oh.
And so it's a school, and we get that there's some things that happen that we just have no way of processing or dealing with. And so, yeah, get out of them if you can, yes. But also, if we allow for it, we see that the problems that come into our lives are opportunities for us to learn and to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, this problem or opportunity, they're just two ways of looking at the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very important for us to realize. They're problems that just don't go away. They're problems we can't run away from. Mm-hmm. And I've tried. I have. God bless me. I have tried. I remember in the early days, there were people that I just didn't like at all and couldn't live with. And I would leave. And at one point, I moved from Indiana to California to get away from all the problems, the problem job, the problem weather, the problem people, all of that. And then they all showed up in new faces and new situations in California. This is karma, of course. So there's this, which is to the extent that we can accept the problem that's coming and take it as an opportunity to grow mm-hmm. and to come towards harmony, that's really the guidance here. Mm-hmm. Dear Eckhart Tolle, he would say there are three options when something's happening that we don't like. Mm-hmm. The first one is to leave it. The second is to change it. And the third is to accept it and to work within our inner world in this acceptance paradigm. Yeah. And so all of them are movements. The real issue for us is this tendency to take the fourth option, which is not an option. And that is just to get stuck and tie knots in our personality. Mm-hmm. Not to accept it, not to try to change it, mm-hmm. and not to try to get away from it. And if we do any of those three, we'll learn something. But we do the fourth, we just get stuck. Mm-hmm. And so to the extent that we can, and I'm not trying to tell anyone, I'm not trying to tell you or anyone, tolerate beyond your capacity to tolerate. I would not say that. Mm-hmm. But tolerate to your capacity to tolerate. Yes? Mm-hmm. Do your best to see what's coming as an opportunity that you can learn from. Oh. And you will learn faster. And learning means coming to the place of peace or joy or love, which is existent within us.
Mm-hmm. And specifically as this relates to, because this notion of feeling the harmony and like that being the guide, that being your consciousness, that experiential felt sense, to me is such a powerful and guide, compass. It is. That relating to, like, how does that relate to this conversation of things happen that you don't like? It feels like discord, but we're talking about a deeper harmony. Is that the issue? Or
you can harmonize within yourself. You can harmonize everything. Paramahansa Yogananda would say the yogi, and this is aspirational, this is out there and up there, but this is also in here. Mm-hmm. This is the deep reality within us. Our own highest nature cannot be hurt. Mm-hmm. Our own highest nature is absolute in nature, absolute love, absolute wisdom, absolute peace. It's not wavy. It's not rippling. Mm-hmm. Peace is found within us. It's not created within us. It is found within us. Peace already exists within the cave of our heart. Mm-hmm. It already exists within our own highest nature. And so our movement is to locate it, to find how to honor it, how to connect with it, mm-hmm. how to bring ourselves into alignment with it. Yeah, it's not something we're creating. Yeah. If we could create it, then we would all live at peace because we're very good at creating things here. But generally, it seems what we're creating is not bringing us to peace.
Oh, yeah.
So it's needing to be discovered and honored within. And this is the thing. And what we learn, and again, I tried it. I tried running away from situations that were clearly not harmonious. But what I finally discovered is the ability to harmonize them through the inner realm, whatever, and to accept whatever. And Peace Pilgrim describes, for example, one of her learnings, and she would say it this way. She would say that she learned that no one from without could hurt her psychologically, that only she could do that to herself. And she gives this example. She says that she had come to the place where if someone said a mean thing, that she felt great compassion for them because of the suffering that they were experiencing with this psychological disease. In the same way that we would have compassion for someone suffering from cancer. For us to be caught up in these very abusive mental natures, we're suffering. But if we allow for it, maybe it's not someone else, maybe it's our own inner relationship. And so the spiritual work is really in this direction. So maybe I can leave the situation, never comes up again. I find that unlikely. Let's go to number 2.
Live good beliefs. The laws governing human conduct apply as rigidly as the law of gravity. Obedience to these laws pushes us toward harmony. Disobedience pushes us toward inharmony. Since many of these laws are already common belief, you can begin by putting into practice all the good things you believe. No life can be in harmony unless belief and practice are in harmony.
Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. So there's a question here perhaps on living good beliefs and what does that mean? Mm-hmm. There's a story that Peace Pilgrim shares, and I had touched on it in the introductory piece for this. And that is that in school, she had learned about the Golden Rule. And she shares that the teacher had brought in a chart, a plaque, with the Golden Rule in all of the different traditions. In our Western traditions, generally, we would say something like, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And the Jewish tradition is quite lovely. It's do not do unto another what is hateful to yourself. So that's very direct and clear. And then it exists in all of the traditions. But she heard it and it resonated with her. She would say she believed it to be true. But then the question was, well, why don't we do it? And there is an answer for that. If you really observe, if you allow yourself to, and allow yourself to observe the psychology that we're dealing with, how the mind is functioning, you'll see it. And that is, we all deal with this protective mechanism, this ego sense, which turns that around and says, you first. Right? It's easy for us to recognize that someone is mistreating us, that someone's saying something to us which we take to be unkind. That's easy to see, huh? But it's not as easy for us to see that we're saying something that someone else will also perceive as unkind or inappropriate or not aligned. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's because of the ego sense, which is making us the king of our own worlds and turning it so her suggestion is really simple in this way, which is each of us have beliefs related to how this human intercourse, these relationships that we have within families, within communities, within with the earth, with government, with elders, with those that are younger, all of this. We all have beliefs about this, and certainly we can relate to it the way we believe people should be treated, like the way I should be treated. And so the guidance is, see if we can put these in practice and focus on this as a priority. And this does help us in the learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Number 3, find your place in the life pattern. You have a part in the scheme of things. What that part is, you can know only from within yourself. You can seek it in receptive silence. You can begin to live in accordance with it by doing all the good things you are motivated toward and giving these things priority in your life over all the superficial things that customarily occupy human lives.
Oh. So there's this Sanskrit word dharma that gets used a lot and is in a way very hard to relate to and understand. It's one of those words that can be interpreted in many different ways. But she's touching on this. And this is a very, very big challenge for us. And we'll tend to get stuck here, which is, what am I to do? What's my role here? What career, what job, where should I live? Who should be my partner? All of these kinds of things, these questions. And so they occupy a lot of space for us. And she gives 2 guidances here. They're very simple and profoundly helpful guidances. The first one is very direct, and that is, each of us have within us wisdom, the intuitive nature. It's within us. It's not the mind. The mind is not full of wisdom, and I think we probably have noticed this by now. Please forgive, but this is like, I think we've probably noticed by now that it's not full of wisdom. But we all have intuitive experience. We don't mean instinctive, and there's this tremendous difference between the instincts and the intuition. Intuition is of the nature of wisdom, and it is of the nature of non-harm. Non-harm. Intuitive guidances are rooted in the concept of ahimsa, and it's not a concept. They're non-harmful solutions. So if you look, you'll see it in your life. You'll see when you were dealing with a problem and you didn't know what the answer was, and you turned it into a question. Or we just, and I described sometimes just, I would beat myself, like beat my head against the wall, and then asking the question or reflecting on it or thinking I need to know or I must know or like that. And then I would stop beating my head for a little while. I'd sleep and the answer would be there when I would wake up. Have we had this? So this is the intuitive guidance, and it's not in the normal mental flow, but we each have the capacity to access it because it is our own highest self. This is also what we call guru, or an aspect of guru, and that is wisdom, intuitive wisdom. It's a knowing that is beyond words, and it's real, and each of us have the experience with it. And the way we access it is to ask a question. If we don't ask a question, it's very hard to access it. If we can't formulate a question, it's very hard to get at it. But when we do formulate a question, like, what should I do? What could I do? How can I live a beneficial life? How can I be beneficial in this situation? How can I get chocolate right now? Even that. If we don't ask the question, it's not so likely that we're going to get the answer, yeah? Okay, so first step is ask the question. In Sanskrit, we call it vichara. And then best guidance, listen. And how do you listen? Well, we have to get out of our head. And how do we get out of our head? Each of us will have our own ways, but there are these beautiful ways that are quite common. An arboretum, the forest, a garden, take a walk. Not in the city or in the park in the city. Take a walk in a place where we get out of our head, ask the question, and listen. So walking, being in the presence of flowers or nature, getting ourselves into that presence. If we have a seated meditation practice, yes, absolutely. This, sit ourselves in a beautiful place, read a poem that's inspiring, listen to music that's inspiring, and really focus on listening. So this is the first. It is said by the wise ones that the answer is in the question itself. And this will sound funny, but it is. It is. If we can ask the question, we can get to the answer. So that's the first, is to allow for this capability within ourselves to honor it and to work with it, to try. And the second is, there's this beautiful saying from Joseph Campbell, if anyone's familiar with him, which is follow your bliss. And that is that what we are to do in our lives is very much in alignment with what we can do, what we have the capacity to do, the innate gifts or skills to do. So in other words, let's say, and this would be an example of Swami, math might come easy, calculating with numbers might come easy, visualizing problems and problem solving might come easy. That's an aspect of one type of psyche. And so maybe what I could do would be something where I would use this gift. Maybe I would work with computers. Maybe I would have some technical calling like that, or maybe houses, architect, something like this. And then, of course, is the arts and other areas of strength. Peace Pilgrim gives an example. She met a dear soul in her walk who was absolutely miserable, and it was obvious when Peace met her. And this woman stopped Peace and said, "Would you please help me?" And they had a talk. And she said, "I'm very uncomfortable in life, and I just don't know what to do. And what are you doing now?" "Well, I work in an office." And Peace could tell right away that this was not really. And so she said, "What do you like to do?" And the woman responded, "I like flowers, I like to swim, and I like to sing." And Peace evaluated very quickly. She realized, well, swimming isn't going to bring the income necessary to support herself, and singing, she wasn't at that level either. But Peace had just met a dear soul who owned a flower shop, and so she introduced them. And she checked back a couple of years later. They had visited again, and this dear soul was still at the flower shop, and she just absolutely loved arranging flowers and offering them to customers that came into the store. And she swam for exercise, and twice a week she would go to the retirement home, and she'd sit at the piano and play piano and lead the honky-tonk songs that the residents of the time really enjoyed singing. And so she found a very, to use the term, harmonious life. Very harmonious life, very beautiful life, very much a life in alignment. And so those are the two. Yeah.
Okay, number 4, simplify life to bring inner and outer well-being into harmony. Unnecessary possessions are unnecessary burdens. Many lives are cluttered not only with unnecessary possessions, but also with meaningless activities. Cluttered lives are out of harmony lives and require simplification. Wants and needs can become the same in a human life, and when this is accomplished, there will be a sense of harmony between inner and outer well-being. Such harmony is needful not only in the individual life, but in the collective life too.
Oh. So there's a saying, unnecessary possessions actually possess us, not the other way around. I relate to the concept of something occupying space in our head. There's the physical space. Here we're sitting in our little ashram, and we have library. We're looking at the library, and obviously it's sitting right in front of the altar. And there's a kitchen here, and then an office and a guest room. So that's the space. It's not so cluttered.
No.
Thank God. But I absolutely lived the life that was physically cluttered. And there's that. But really where it's affecting us and causing us ashanti, the opposite of peace, not peace, is in the mind, in the mental realm. And that is whatever we own, we also have to care for. If we don't care for it, it occupies space in the mind because we're aware that we don't care for it and it's falling apart, correct? So a book in the library, 50-year-old book, the cover is starting to fall apart. If you see the book, when you see it, is there a thought, I need to care for that book? Yes?
Immediately.
It comes, thank you. Do you see it? It comes immediately. If the car, you got a very expensive car and you're living in the Midwest and you didn't get it undercoated and you don't have it cleaned very often, and after a few years you see rust. Now, there's one rust spot on the car and you walk to the car twice a day. Twice a day you walk to the car. How many times a day do you see the rust spot? Is that so? Is he correct? And so, whatever we have to care for, or we're punished by it. Yes?
Yeah.
Right here. And there's not infinite space in the mind, actually, because we want to be able to use the mind productively in ways that will bring us towards peace, will bring peace into our community, will allow us to live beneficial lives. And so if it's all occupied by stuff, it's not a peaceful life. This is the point that she's making. So it's the physical aspect of it. Now, she would also say, dear Peace Pilgrim, here's an image of Peace Pilgrim right up here, behind me. And Peace would make a point when she was with the group of discussing pilgrimage, and when she would make this point that we're doing now, she would say, I don't mean that you should have absolutely nothing. She said, it's a question of needs versus wants. And the advice is that you look and see if you really need what you want. And if the need is not there, to do this needs analysis and to clear, to cleanse, like that. And she would say, look at me. She said, I need nothing other than the clothes that I wear. And she walked around with a comb and a toothbrush and a pen. That was it. And those were in the pockets in that tunic is the word for it. Thank you, Lord. So that was it. And she wanted nothing. And that was the point that she made. She wanted nothing beyond that. And she would say, and look, here I am with all of my world possessions. And my wants and needs are in perfect alignment. And so at peace, not owned by anything, not beholden by anything. But she said also based upon where we are in the life pattern, what role are we playing? The householder, we have children, then the needs are different. We are serving and supporting a community, the needs are different. So for each of us, it's going to be different. And so the guidance is towards needs analysis. And this helps prepare us for the next steps, which are really dealing now with the inner world. Questions?
No, I don't think so. She's so clear and direct and simple in a way. It's approachable for sure.
I hope that you appreciate her style. We make a point with Peace Pilgrim. We bring her into every one of the steps towards inner peace, or be still and know silent retreats. We had to switch gears, which took a moment. Our retreats, we bring her into every one of them, typically Sunday mornings, and we pull out the steps towards inner peace and step through it. And we do it because of the simplicity and the profound nature of this. I hope you find it beneficial. As we said, ask questions as we follow. We will be back tomorrow morning with the third installment, and then Monday morning, before dear Brian is on his way back towards Michigan, we'll complete the series with the purifications. So if you have any questions, please note them here, and we'll make a point of covering them in the next section. And let's close with mantra. Let's close with the Mahamrityunjaya. Chant Om Triambakam together. And we'll be reminded of Tiny Tim's beautiful prayer as well. God bless us, everyone. May all know peace. May all be happy. May all be free. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Om Triambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam Orvairukamiva bandhanan mrichyor mukshiyamamritat. Om Triambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam Orvairukamiva bandhanan mrichyor mukshiyamamritat. Om Triambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam Orvairukamiva bandhanan mrichyor mukshiyamamritat. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Mambalo Sakar Shivananda Maharaj Ki
Jai.
For all the saints and sages of all the traditions. Jai. Jai. Peace, love, blessings. Om Shanti.